And we're live. All right, everybody. Welcome to Total Justice Gaming's Superhero Time, which is a new video segment we're going to be doing for the show. It'll just be me, unless I can convince Jesse to play Hero World, but it's predominantly going to be me. So, who am I for those of you that are watching this from the Buddy Fight Hero Group? My name is Joe Tonello. I am a kind of a long-time Buddy Fight player. I played in set 1. Didn't really feel it. I got back in when they got the Shinsengumi. Kind of fell in and out for a while. It just wasn't really piquing my interest. Watched the anime, saw that we had Hero World, and said I would come back when Hero World came out. So, I'm a Hero World player. I dabble in Darkness Dragon World, but that's because Abigail is one of my favorite characters, but that's because the primary voice actor for Abigail also voices one of my favorite video game characters from the Yakuza franchise, Cosmic Kiryu. So there's that. I am first and foremost a Hero World player. The majority of my deck boxes are nothing but Hero World. The deck videos will be a bit will be distributed intermittently because there's only so many decks I can do. I'll try to homebrew a couple versions, but these will come out kind of infrequently, maybe once a month or maybe bi-monthly. It just kind of depends on when I have free time. I have a full, very hectic life schedule, so that's the other reason. So, moving on, if I was going to compare myself to anybody in Buddy Fight, it would be Baku, because I like to build more than I do play. I'm what I coined the term, I'm a competitive local. I can play at a high level, maybe not as high as certain other players that go to the bigger events, but also I don't want to travel to larger events, mostly because I have a full hectic life. I work in a hospital, and getting time off from a hospital is a very hard thing to do. So I really don't have the time or the availability to travel out to these large tournaments, see everybody, which I would love to. I wholeheartedly would. But I love building. I love building in every card game I've ever been in. I've always been kind of a mediocre player, but great builder. I love thinking outside the box, looking at things from a different angle, or trying to find just weird combinations from cards that just no one ever looks at and they somehow work. So I like building a whole bunch. In fact, Baku was my first buddy from one of my very first constructed decks. I think it was Dungeon World. Yeah, it was Dungeon World. Baku was my buddy. So let's move on. So today we're looking at Caardian. Caardian is themed around the TV franchise Kamen Rider, for those of you who don't know. I believe more specifically, if we look at his support, his 3-form support, he's actually based off Black RX, because Black RX would be the Caardian base form, speed form would be Bio Rider, and his armored form would be Robo Rider. Though aesthetically, while he does share the very heavy traits of Kamen Rider, aesthetically, he's actually more Metal Hero based. Just from the looks of all of his characters, they're not really heavy on the insectoid, or they're not the heavily armored looking units that we're used to seeing in Kamen Rider, or the more sparsely armored units, excuse me. But they're the more shiny and very bulk metallic look. So I would say that Caardian is based somewhere around and in between Kamen Rider and Metal Heroes. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Metal Hero franchise, if you're around my age, you'll remember Big Bad Beetleborgs, which was Metal Fighter Kabuto and Metal Fighter Kabuto J. For those of you that lived in Hawaii for a little bit during the 80s you got Space Sheriff Gavin, Scheider, and Sherivan. I think I got the red and blue correct, but I do know for sure that this is Space Sheriff Gavin. But I believe that Caardian is kind of a fine blend of the two, of the gimmick of Kamen Rider, but the aesthetic of Metal Hero. But let's get into the deck itself. So we have Protector Deity of Steel Caardian. 5/5. He cannot transform without other. This card cannot transform other than by the activated ability of Transform Belt Cardwinder. He has a call cost of 2. When he enters the field or you transform into him, you may discard an item or a card with Caardian in its name from your hand. If you do, destroy a card in your opponent's field. So he's free transform, and you can pitch a card to blow up a card on the opponent's field, or you can pay 2 gauge. This is a very gimmick-heavy deck. If you play it right, you will pretty much get whatever you need at any time. But, if you're going to be calling them out of hand, I really don't recommend it because it's 2 gauge. But at the same time, after looking over this deck quite a bit, you really aren't burdened with gauge a whole bunch. So it's not super bad. Give me 1 second, guys. I just want to make sure that if the chat's up, we got Q&A. Pardon? So free destruction is always a good thing. This deck is filled with stuff to pitch. So we will move on. So we have Speed Form. Caardian Speed Mode is a 6/2/4. He has the same skill as base Caardian of you have to use the belt ability to transform into him. He has, at the end of this battle, if you were to transform into this card, if there's another card with Caardian in the name in your drop zone, he gets double attack. He also has transform and move for when you have to call him. I like him calling him while you're transformed into base Caardian because he's a free call and move. You can do other things to give him like double attack or penetrate. I really like playing Arduous Training with him, and you'll see that in the deck. And by the way, guys, before I forget, I will put the full deck list numbers in the description below in the video, but we will also do a slight run back, and I can give you the numbers too. But I like this. I like that if you can give it penetrate, this thing's just an absolute monster. Arduous Training, he gets, 5,000 power? Let me look here real quick. Yeah, 5,000 power, so he becomes an 11k attacker with a crit of 3, double attack, and penetrate. So that's pretty good. Moving along, we have Armor Mode, or Mode Armor. Again, he shares the Caardian skill of how to transform. When you're transformed into this card, you gain a life. Always good. I actually like making him the buddy because that means you get double buddy gift on your first transformation into him, essentially, which is gaining 2 life is just really, really good. He has a counter skill, which also pretty good. Oh, I forgot his stats. Sorry, guys. He's a 3/2/6. Free call, much like Speed Form. His counter ability of if you were transformed, you discard an item or a card with Caardian in its name from your hand. If you do, the next time you'd be dealt damage. This turn, it is reduced by 3. So he is, for a card pitch, he is a, what's that one darkness world card? Well, he just reduces damage by 3, and that's pretty good because a lot of cards, unless you have an excessive spell or they are some of the more fancier monsters in the game, their generally crit is just going to be at most 3/2, meaning they're going to be dealing no damage. Moving along, outside of the Caardian-based, we have Cyber Police Sidewatcher. You just call him to the side. I like, he's not really there for damage. He's more there for field control with this 10k attack. He's a 10/1/2. Not really too much I can go in depth with him. I just like the fact that he's a 10k attacker, so that means he can clear out a monster that's giving you issues, or just swing to the face, or get rid of that first monster that's in their center. So really, really good. Also costless. He just has the drawback if you can't call him to center. That's really fine because with a defense like that, I wouldn't want him in the center anyways. Next up, we got Cyber Police Assault Leader. He's a 6/2/1. Again, good stats for an attacker. It doesn't matter where you place him. Save for the middle because, you got to keep an open center in this deck. what else was I going to say? Excuse me. I'm doing this early in the morning, guys, and I'm still in the middle of my cup of coffee. 6'2", so that means he can deal a fair amount of damage. Like Sidewatcher, he can clear out a good deal of monsters. That 2 crit means, if he's on the board, they have to guard him. They take 2 damage, which, early game is not that important, but if you're really piling on the damage with form changes and whatnot, he can be an issue. Then we have Constructor, Buildian, who's a 2/1/3. Has the ability of when you're transformed into a card named Caardian, put the top card of your deck into your gauge. So he gives you free gauge so long as you transform into Caardian, which is always good. The deck, again, is not really super dependent on gauge, which I really, really like that. If you are transformed to Caardian, give that card an additional 1,000 power and penetrate. So that means he on the field, if you transform into speed form, he gets penetrate, double attack, becomes a 7k attacker with a crit of 2. You can stack Arduous Training on him, make him 5, 6, 12k attacker, crit of 3, penetrate, double attack. So really good stuff. I like him. He's definitely worth putting in the build. Next we have Caardian Overheat. A lot of people know what this, like, they're saying he's doing some sort of dance. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I'm old, like 33 old, but so stuff like this I just completely miss because I don't know what the heck a dab is, but apparently he is dabbing. So, that's that. So this is his actual Caardian impact. You may cast this if your opponent has 5 life or less and you transform into a card with Caardian in its name. Pay 3 gauge. Again, not a super big deal. We're not gauge dependent in this deck. Deal 3 damage to your opponent. If you have 3 or more different monsters with Caardian in its name in your drop zone, deal 5 damage instead. Really good card. They still can, like Black Dragon Shield, reduce the damage to 0. They can reduce damage to 0, but outside of that, it's not too bad. I mean, it's a great game ender. It's pretty fairly costed. It's going to be pretty easy to get the 3 different Caardians in the deck into your drop zone because you'll be pitching them for various effects. So, pretty good. Moving on to items, we have Transformation Belt Card Winder. It's a 0 attack, 1 defense, 1 defense item. Equip cost, pay a life, and return a Caardian. Return up to 1 card with Caardian in its name you are transformed into back to your hand. So this is really important because you do not have to bounce if you don't want to on the initial equip because it does say up to 1. You merely have to pay a life. Then you have the activated ability of you may pay 2 gauge, return this from the field to your hand. Again, this is one of the very few cards we actually do pay gauge with. If you do, choose a monster with Caardian in its name from your hand or deck and transform into it. If you've searched your deck, shuffle it. So this is the key of how to get your deck started. So you really need to be able to get this card. So in order to get this card, we're going to be looking at one of the very, if only, spells based around for Caardian, which is you're a superhero from now on. Search your deck for up to 1 Transformation Belt Card Winder, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. You only cast this once per turn. Really good. That means if you manage to have this, it also basically means you have Card Winder in hand. It also helps clear your deck out a little bit. That way you're able to get certain things you want quicker. It's also just a great way to initially start getting into the deck to keep you going. Again, also costless. So we're having that. So we got I've Seen Through Your Moves. Everybody knows this card. It's our null guard. We got Arduous Training. I love this card to death. I use it in almost every build I can transform a ride into. It's simply pay a life, choose an item on your field for this turn. It gets 5k attack, a crit, and penetrate. Again, I've already said you compare this with Speed Form. Fantastic stuff. Great card. That's a shallow shot. You pay a gauge, destroy a monster with on the field with 5,000 power less. This is what I call a free spot. You do not have to run this card. We also have various other cards we're going to look at that can go in place of this card. I just do like this card in general. I also have this theory that Stridom here is some sort of either a failed Geigrander or perhaps something to do with Caardian itself, like that Dark Rider that appears midway through the season, then becomes a helper to the series. Or he, like I said, he could just be failed Geigrander 3 and something happened and he had to go join the Dark Heroes. Lord only knows. But we're going to look at some other cards that can go along with this. So the first up, we have Energy Absorption Machinery. You pay gauge, put a spell, or put a card from your opponent's gauge and a soul from a card on your opponent's field into the drop zone, and you gain 2 life. This is really, really good for those decks that like to get soul. You can help kind of restrict it a little bit. The best use of this card I have seen is against the Fenrir decks, because when they play Glipnir, they got to have the Fenrir and the Soul. You can play this on your turn if they have not casted Glipnir yet, and just put the Fenrir from the Soul of the Glipnir into the drop zone, and then that spell is just sitting there doing nothing. We actually had that happen. The kid that was playing the Glipnir deck was super mad that something like this exists, because it just wrecked his strategy. This also helps you with soul heavy monsters. I expect Hero World to be playing this a little bit more, probably in deck, when we see stuff like Jaeger come out, or you have a soul heavy meta deck. Next up, we could also play, this is an after image. It's a costless counter spell that keeps a card on the field. Really, really good. Or we can play Justice Will Prevail, since we do have superheroes in this, and give the +3/+3 counterattack. These 3 cards, if you're looking at the A, B, and C, these are all entirely up to you. These are just 3 I tossed out that you can play over in this free spot. Moving along, we will be also playing I've Come Back to Take You Down. This lets you pay a gauge. If you're not transforming, you got to pay 2, but if you are, you only got to pay 1. Choose a superhero monster from your drop zone and put it in your hand. That means you can get a Caardian back, set yourself up for another ability. Ability use next turn, or no, this just pretty much lets you set up for another ability use next turn, or an attempt to call something you may need. Pretty much everybody in the deck is a superhero. Yep, everybody in the deck is either a superhero or a superhero/brave machine. And then the final card of the deck is About Time I Got Serious. Pay gauge, draw 2 cards. Only cast if you're at 6 life or less. Just pretty straightforward. It's more card draw. And that's the deck. So let's rewind quite a bit. Rewinding too far. All right, so we're going to make Caardian our base monster, our buddy monster. So you're going to need 5 copies of this. So that means in deck, you're going to have 4. You're going to have 4 speed mode. You're going to have 4 armor mode, 4 side watcher, 4 assault leader. That gives you roughly, and 4 Buildian. So about 24 monsters. You're going to have 4 of Caardian overheat. Of course, 4 card winder. You're going to be running 4 I'm a Superhero from now on, because you really, really, really need the belt as soon as you possibly can. So you either have the belt in hand, or hopefully you have the spell in hand to get the belt. 4 I've Seen Through Your Moves. 3 Arduous Training. 3 Shallow Shot, and any of the 3 subsequent Cards we talked about will be added 3 of to replace Shower Shot. 2, I've come back to take you down, and 2, it's about time I got serious. So that is the Caardian deck. I hope you guys like it. If you guys saw cards that aren't in there, it's either because I don't have them and I refuse to build what I don't have. And of course, as always, this deck is simply my opinion and a basis for you guys to start off on building your own version of Caardian. I hope I've been a help to you guys. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. I don't know what it'll be, so it'll be a surprise or I'll drop a hint. I'm kind of weird like that. Maybe we'll be looking at Autobots. Maybe we'll be looking at G Gundam. If you don't know what those are, I've dropped the term a couple times, meaning I'll either be looking at changers or battle poets. But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching. Tune in Thursdays if you're interested in UFS or level 99 games. We do that on the main Total Justice show. And if you check out the Twitch, which is twitch.tv/JOE10LO, I do some Let's Plays on games every now and then. Haven't been doing it as of late, but I'm going to be picking it back up. But again, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.